Have you been praying to God for a breakthrough, but it feels like no matter how hard you pray, God has been really silent? Well, what if the reason for God's silence is because He is waiting on you to take a step of obedience that you have been afraid to take? In today's episode, I am going to expose to you why it feels like your blessing is delayed. And by the end of this, you will see that the key to your breakthrough is already being held in your hands. Some of us have been in a season where we feel like we want to see change so bad, but it feels like God is not moving. And we've been developing this mindset where we feel like it's never going to happen. God is never going to bring us to this breakthrough. And we've been growing weary and getting very discouraged. But this message isn't for everyone, but it is for some of you. And so for some of you, can I challenge you and help you understand that the reason why you have not made it to your breakthrough, the reason why you feel stagnant and you feel like you are not progressing forward is not because God is silent. It's not because God has lied to you, but it's because God has already given you an instruction that you refuse to do. Sometimes God will give us a step and we will minimize that step and view that step as a suggestion. We look at that step and we say things like, I would do that, but that's uncomfortable. I would do that, but that doesn't feel realistic. I would do that, but that scares me. And so what we'll do is we'll take an instruction that God gave us and we will use it as a suggestion and not as a priority. And we will not walk in that thing that He told us to walk into, but then we will sit and we will continue to pray to Him time and time and time again over the same thing. And then we get discouraged when that breakthrough isn't coming to us. But what we fail to realize is that God's instruction is not optional. We cannot pray for something and then refuse to take the path that God is telling us to take to get that thing. And so for some of you, God is saying, the reason why I'm silent is because you're expecting me to give you something else when you have not moved on what I've already given you. I will not speak to you again until you start moving. I will not give you more until you start doing what I already told you to do. Why would I continue speaking to a person who is hard-headed and who's not going to listen to what I'm even telling them? Why would I waste my time giving you instructions when I know that you're not going to follow them? God is saying, stop minimizing the instruction, stop viewing it as optional, and start listening and obeying what He told you to do. And can I be real with you for a moment? Because honestly, a lot of us don't even realize that we are being disobedient to God's instructions. But I want to help you view disobedience in different ways, because to us, we think disobedience means God told me to do something and I just flat out told Him no and just refused to do it. But disobedience can come in many different forms. And one of the forms of disobedience is packaging it up in a way to satisfy our comfortability. What I mean by that is if we flat out refuse to do what God told us to do and we continue to pray for that thing every single day, we will start having thoughts coming in our head like, why are you wasting your time praying over this when God already told you what to do? Why are you sitting here praying for a step when God already gave you a step that you're not taking? And those type of thoughts will make us feel guilty. Those type of thoughts will make us feel bad because they're holding us accountable and making sure that we know that we cannot just pray for something without moving into it. And none of us like to feel guilt, right? So what we will do is we will mask our disobedience with excuses that sounds very spiritual. So we will tell ourselves things like, well, I'm waiting on God. I'm waiting for confirmation. I struggle with discernment. I can't tell if it's me speaking, if it's God speaking, or if it's the devil speaking. So to make sure that I'm not moving into the wrong path, to make sure that I'm not doing something that's not in alignment with God, I'm going to wait for Him to confirm this to me before I make the decision to move. And I know that that sounds very good, right? But that's an excuse. Deep down inside, this step that God gave you terrifies you. Deep down inside, this step that God gave you makes you very uncomfortable. Deep down inside, this step that God gave you is something that you don't want to do. And you will feel bad for saying, I don't want to move in that area. I get terrified thinking about moving in that area. I feel uncomfortable moving in that area. I'm embarrassed to move in that area. I don't want to progress. I don't want to do any work. It feels very bad for you you to say that. So instead, you will disguise this with spiritual excuses and tell yourself, I am waiting for confirmation. And so if this is you, can I challenge that thought and that excuse that's telling you that you need to wait for God to confirm something in order for you to obey him? I want you to follow me to Exodus chapter 3, verses 7 through 12. In this story, God is giving Moses the promise that he is going to lead the children of Israel to the promised land, right? So we're going to listen to what God said. Then we're going to see Moses' doubt. Then we're going to see how God responds to Moses' doubt. So it says, then the Lord told him, I have certainly seen the oppression of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cries of distress because of their harsh slave drivers. Yes, I am aware of their suffering. So I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and lead them out of Egypt into their own fertile and spacious land. Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites now live. Look, the cry of the people of Israel have reached me, and I have seen how harshly the Egyptians abused them. Now, go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people Israel out of Egypt. But Moses protested to God, who am I to appear before Pharaoh? Who am I to lead the people of Israel out of Egypt? God answered, I will be with you, and this is your sign that I am the one who has sent you. When you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God at this very mountain. So we're going to stop right there. In this story, God gave Moses 3 things, right? Number 1, he gave him a promise. The promise was that he will rescue the Israelites out of Egypt and bring them to the promised land. Number 2, he gave Moses instructions. The instructions was to go to Pharaoh and demand for him to let his people go. And then number 3, God gave Moses a sign. He said, when you have brought the people out of Egypt, you will worship God on this mountain. Now, I want to talk about the sign because the sign and confirmation means the same thing, right? God told Moses that he would give him the sign. And if you notice, the sign that God told Moses he would give him was going to come after Moses moved, not before. God told Moses, this is your sign. Once you bring my people out, then you're going to come back to this mountain and worship me. Once you bring them out, once you actually do what I told you to do, the sign and confirmation is not coming before, it's coming after you take the step I told you to take. So remember what I said earlier, right? Remember how I said that we've been praying to God for something and we feel like God is silent. We feel like we can't hear him. We can't sense his presence. It feels like God is not with us. And we've been waiting for God to confirm something to us. We know that God gave us an instruction and we're saying, I don't know if it's God or if it's me. I don't know if I should really take this step. So I'm waiting on God and I'm sitting in this place where I'm being disobedient to him. I don't feel him. I don't sense him. He's not talking to me anymore. And I've been praying and asking myself, where is God? But look at what God said to Moses. He said, the way that you will know that I am with you is after you take the step. The way that you will get a sign and confirmation from me is after you take the step. Have we ever sat back and thought that maybe the reason why God is silent in this season, maybe the reason why we cannot hear him or sense him is because he is waiting for us on the other side of the instruction that he told us to take. He says that once you walk over into that thing, once you obey me and do that thing, that is where I'm standing and that is where you'll sense me. You're not sensing me right here because I already moved on to step 1. I already moved on to step 2 and you're still standing at the starting line, refusing to go any further. God is saying, if you want to hear me, if you want my help, if you want my guidance, you have to move. You are standing at the starting line and I have moved on to the other side of step 1. You are praying for me to get you to step 10, but you refuse to meet me halfway at step 1. You're praying for me to get you to step 10 while refusing to move with me to step 1. And then you're trying to pray to me at the starting line while I am standing at step 1 and you're wondering why you can't hear me. It's important for you to understand that you're going to stay stuck as long as you stay still. In order for you to get out of this mud, in order for you to get out of this place that's holding you hostage, you have to fight and you have to move. I'm sorry, I understand that this sounds harsh, but for some of you, God is not going to speak to you anymore in this place. He's not giving you any more instructions. You're not going to feel his presence. You're not going to feel him be with you. And it's not because he abandoned you. It's because you abandoned him. You abandoned the journey that he was taking you on. You abandoned the mission that he was moving you to. He moved on to step one. It's not that he left you and said, screw you and screw this journey and I'm done with you. No, he's waiting for you at the next step. He's waiting for you at the other side of instructions that he has given you. And he's waiting for you to finally walk into that thing and meet him where he already moved on to. It's time to stop with the excuses and it's time to start moving. And I know that this can be scary and very intimidating to do, right? Especially if you are the type of person where you follow God's instructions in the past. You've obeyed him. You listened to what he told you to do. And maybe things still didn't work out. Maybe doors still didn't open for you. Maybe it felt like your journey got harder. Maybe it felt like God wasn't moving. And maybe you see other people who's walking into similar things and you see all these opportunities working for them. You see all these doors opening for them. You see things lining up for them. And so you've been struggling with these thoughts in your head that tells you God doesn't love you. You're not favored by God. God likes this person more than he likes you. There's no point in following his steps because they never amount to anything. And if you've been feeling this way, I know there's going to be people who judge you. I don't judge you. This is a real feeling. You have been struggling because you've been looking at how things have worked out in your past and you've been feeling like there's no point in following God anymore. There's no point in listening to God anymore. Fear has convinced you that there is no point in taking another step into God's direction. But to help you break down those doubts, I want to read to you Exodus chapter 3, verses 18 through 20. So this is the same story, but this is after God told Moses what to say to the elders and to Pharaoh, right? So it says, the elders of Israel will accept your message. Then you and the elders must go out to the king of Egypt and tell him, the Lord, the God of the Hebrews, has met with us. So please let us take a 3-day journey into the wilderness to offer sacrifices to the Lord our God. But I know that the king of Egypt will not let you go unless a mighty hand forces him. So I will raise my hand and strike the Egyptians, performing all kinds of miracles among them. Then at last he will let you go. So let's stop there. God told Moses what to say to Pharaoh, but he already knew that Pharaoh was going to say no. What does that mean? God gave Moses an instruction that he knew was not going to result to anything. A lot of you have been in seasons where you feel like God gave you an instruction and it did not result to anything. God told you to start this business, but you are not making any sales. God told you to start going to marriage counseling, but you do not sense a spouse. God told you that you will have a child, but you have not had any luck getting pregnant. God gave you an instruction, and that instruction is not producing the result that you thought it was going to produce. And you've been allowing the lack of result to discourage you and make you think that God doesn't love you, make you think that God doesn't care about you, make you think that God lied to you. But notice what he said to Moses. I'm giving you an instruction, and I know that that instruction will not produce anything. And you're probably like, why though? Why would God give me an instruction if he knows that I'm not going to get the result immediately? Let's break this down. Okay. Going back to the story of Moses, right? God told Moses to say something to Pharaoh, and he knew that Pharaoh was not going to allow it to happen. Now, Pharaoh was a king, and a king is a person in a powerful position. And one thing that you have to learn about people in positions of power is that they love to exercise their power, and they will even use that power to their advantage, even by dictating that power over people. So Pharaoh was a powerful man who loves to exercise his power. Do you really think someone with that much power, someone like a king, will allow a nobody like Moses to come in and have more power over a situation than him? No, he's going to fight back. And God was okay with that because God was setting it up where it's like, okay, I'm going to let you think that you're winning. I'm going to let you exercise your power, but I'm going to come in and show you who the ultimate power source is. And I'm going to do that by performing a miracle that you can't do, a miracle that your power doesn't have the power to do, a miracle that is way above the level of anything that you can make happen. And I'm going to show you who the ultimate power source is. God understands that people and things in positions of power will not go down without a fight. They're going to try to exercise their power as much as possible. They're going to try to hold on to control over a situation until God steps in and brings a miracle and shows that he is the ultimate power source. Now, what does this have to do with you? You have pharaohs in your life. What I mean by that is you have things that have power over you. Your finances have power over you. They dictate what you can spend your money on. It dictates what you can have. Your job has power over you. Your doubts have power over you. The spirit of struggle has power over you. And these things that have power sources have been exercising their power in your life. And yes, God is moving you into new. But these things are not going to go down without a fight. They're going to continue to try to utilize the power that they have to hold you back until God steps in and shows them that he is the ultimate power source. The same way that God used a miracle with Moses is the same way that he is using a miracle in your situation. Your struggle that you are going through is not proof that God abandoned you. Your struggle is a setup for God's miracle. And how fast that miracle comes will be dependent upon how persistent you are. Because let's think about this for a minute. Moses still had to be consistent. Moses still had to go to Pharaoh multiple times, perform multiple miracles, and still not see a result. So could you imagine if Moses would have said, I'm done? Could you imagine if Moses would have gave up? He would not have seen God's mighty hand work and overcome the power of Pharaoh. I know that it's hard. I know that you want to give up. I know that it feels like things are getting more intense. But the reason why things are getting more intense is because you have two power sources fighting while you're in between in the middle. You have God's power fighting against the power of whatever is holding you back. And that thing is trying to hold on as hard as it possibly can. But God is saying, just stay in the fight, stay consistent, continue following my instructions, continue being obedient to what I told you to do, and watch how I perform a miracle through your obedience. Your job in this season is to be Moses and obey God. I understand that this season is scary. I understand that the instructions that God has given you is very intimidating, but your job is to be Moses. Remember in verse 11, after God gave Moses the instructions, Moses responded, and his response was rooted in fear and intimidation. He asked God, who am I to speak to Pharaoh? Who am I to speak to a king? Who am I to be in front of somebody and go up against someone in that position of power? And you've been asking yourself the same types of questions. Who am I to break a generational curse? Who am I to do something that my family conditioned me to believe that I could never do? Who am I to make an amount of money that nobody in my environment has ever made? Who am I to get married when everyone in my family has baby mothers and baby fathers and never got married, and the ones who did suffered in divorce? Who am I to go up towards the position of power that has been holding me back and telling me I cannot have? You've been asking God the exact same questions that Moses asked him. But Moses still obeyed despite his fear. And so if you want a Moses result, you have to act in the same way as Moses acted. Stop making excuses. Stop saying that you're waiting on God. Stop saying that you're waiting for confirmation. Some of you, God has been so nice. And God has given you like 3 signs and you still waiting for another confirmation. Well, are you sure, Lord? I don't really know if that sign was from you. I'm going to wait for you to give me a 5th confirmation or a 10th confirmation. God is saying the next confirmation is not coming until after you move. You want to see confirmation? The confirmation is the promise. The confirmation is you worshiping me and thanking me for bringing you to where I promised to bring you. That's the confirmation. I'm not giving you anything else. So you have to make the decision. Are you going to stay stagnant? Continue on with your excuses and praying for things that God already gave you instructions on how to get? Or are you going to get up and are you going to start moving? The choice is yours. And so that is all that I have for you today. Sorry, I got a little passionate at the end. Before we go, I do have a weekly action step to give you. So sometime this week, I want you to write down one specific instruction that you know God has already given you. It can be something that feels minor. It might be something that you felt like you minimized or you felt like it was optional, but just one thing that you feel like God spoke to you over something that you've been praying for. Then I want you to circle it and take one concrete action towards it within the next 7 days, even if it's a baby step, even if it's minor, even if it's just one little small step. Take one step forward towards that instruction that God told you to do. But that is all that I have for you today. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you subscribe so that you get a notification every time a new episode is released. Also, leave a review and let me and others know how you enjoyed the show. And if you want to stay connected, follow me on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Prospering with Christ. But that's all I have for you today, and I will see you next week.